Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jordan here with another Warhammer Total War online commentary. In this particular battle, I'll be playing the Empire, led by this warrior priest, as well as a general of the Empire, but to be honest, I think this guy's a lot cooler. So I am playing the Empire, and I'm going to be facing off against a Vampire Counts opponent. So a Grim and the Grave DLC matchup, and I believe we both have some new units. I have the Knights of the Blazing Sun, and he has a Mortis Engine, and of course the Stearnsman. Every Vampire Counts army pretty much brings the Stearnsman. It's just such a cost-effective unit. Regardless, quick overview of the army. Front line of Halberdiers. These guys are a relatively cheap unit at 650. They can deal with Cryptors, they can deal with Graveguard relatively well, especially when buffed by the Bright Wizard. And the Warrior Priest also, the damage debuff that he provides, can really make this a sustainable front line. And I also feel like they're a cheap enough investment that they are also, worth sending into fodder units. So front line of those, crossbowmen back here to deal with Cryptors, other units like that. Greatswords back here to deal with Graveguard, and more importantly, the Stearnsman. And just an extra group of spearmen, just because I had 300 resources left and I needed a little extra love here. But regardless, these guys are so cost effective against Cryptors and cavalry and all types of things like that. So I also have an Empire Captain and a General of the Empire, both on their flying birds here, and two groups of Knights of the Blazing Sun. So this is the quintessential part of this army, guys. And I've been having so much success with this lately using the Bright Wizard. So what he has is an ability called Kindle Flame. If you guys take a look, what it does is it provides a 12% fire debuff on pretty much all of your opponent's units. So essentially any Vampire Counts unit on the battlefield is going to take an additional 12% damage from fire sources. So when you combine that with the Knights of the Blazing Sun, who deal fire damage, it just gives you massive results from what I found. And again, take into account, guys, this is completely anecdotal and it's just been my experience, but I feel like it's really strong, and I would urge you guys to experiment with it. But also, the Flaming Sword of Ruin gives fire damage, so that's a great benefit to any of your troops around here. So as far as my opponent's army composition goes, he has two Skeleton Warriors in the front line. Pretty good fodder, shielded, can take crossbowman fire all day. He has some Graveguard here, as well as the Stearnsman. Another very, very good choice. They have an anti-infantry bonus and are very good against these cheap Empire infantry. He has the Blood Knights and the Dire Pack, one of my favorite combinations, but regardless, I think, he doesn't have quite enough to win that cavalry battle, simply because I have a General of the Empire and an Empire Captain who can help out in that battle, and then the fire damage with Kindle Flame. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe these guys are also weak to fire. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but if they are, then that's even worse for them. He has Vlad von Karstein. Very, very good choice. Mortis Engine. He's got some Fellbats, Cryptors, two groups of Cryptors, but I don't like them as much against Empire because they're very weak to a lot of low-tier Empire infantry. I prefer the Graveguard with great weapons, but regardless, their mobility is very, very valuable. So if microed correctly, they can be good. Then he has a White King here. So it's pretty much a quick overview of the army, guys, and let's go ahead and get started. So I actually like this map a lot. Sorry, while I find position for you guys, because you can kind of use this natural terrain here to the Empire's advantage. I can posture up here, or even just right here, and it takes off an entire flanking avenue for the Vampire Counts. And what that does is it allows you to dictate the pace of the battle in regards to where the cavalry engagement is going to take place. So you can see he has two choices: go all the way around here and really leave his cavalry force far away from Vlad, which is very bad because then Master of Beguilement can't be used, Invocation of Nehek may be out of range, and it allows me to kind of have, which I have more of a mobile, leadership force, so it's advantageous to me. So the battle's getting started here, and my crossbowmen are taking some initial pot shots at this Mortis Engine and doing great damage. You can see it's already at half-life. Something to take into account, guys, Mortis Engines only have 40 armor, so crossbowmen and those type units are going to be very good. So he is charging in his fodder units. He's got his skeletons coming into the halberdiers, and he's got his fellbats coming in to harass my crossbowmen. Regardless, I do have some great swords, as well as this Bright Wizard and the Warrior Priest here, who should be able to turn around and kill those things within a moment here. So right now, I'm just posturing up my cavalry force over here, just kind of waiting for him to come out of the jungle, because I know it's only a matter of time before the Dire Pack and all those scary guys come out. So the Fellbats have been mostly dealt with, and then the crossbowmen are back online, shooting at this Mortis Engine. And in the front line, these halberdiers are holding really well, and they're going to do very, very good against these not Cryptors, but Graveguard here. But unfortunately for me, Vlad is here. And you can see my auxiliary greatswords are coming up to help now. And when you can see where your opponent's going to commit, that's when you can send up those troops and use the Cascading Fire Cloak. On that same note, these spearmen are going to engage the Cryptors, and I'm also pulling back a little bit, but unfortunately the Dire Pack is very quick on the jump. But regardless, his timing for the engagement was a little off, so I was able to get rid of those guys. And also, guys, it's very good to use the Empire Captain. You send him in alone against cavalry units, and it deroutes the charge. It takes the charge off unless he re-manages it, and allows you to get the advantageous charge. So then their damage with the Flaming Sword of Ruin in conjunction with Kindle Flame, they're going to absolutely trash can these Blood Knights. And also on that same note, the Blood Knights do get a good surround on my Empire Captain, but that's where the Potion of Toughness comes into effect. So Again, guys, it's a very, very good strategy. Use the Empire Captain to break the charge, use your potion, and then follow up with your cavalry. And, you know, this much cheaper option here was able to just decimate the Blood Knights. And they're already crumbling, so you can see how effective that fire buff is against these guys. So in the front line, things are going pretty well. I do have the Warrior Priest in here. He's holding it down, providing the different buffs. Looks like my opponent did use the Curse of Years, but regardless, I do not think that's a really, really cost-effective ability. Over here, Vlad and these Graveguard and Skeletons are winning this battle. My Halberdiers, they're still confident, but they're starting to get worn down. And in the center, I'm also losing this battle to, you know, a pretty relative amount, despite the fact that I do have this Warrior Priest here, because the Sternsmen are just so strong and just outclass these Halberdiers to, you know, a great extent. But regardless, I get a very, very good charge in here, and you can see that these Knights are just going to start cycle charging all day against these guys. And they, man, they look cool with those blazing weapons over there. So again, that flame damage and then having that mobility is pretty cost effective. Regardless, my opponent is continuing to get pretty good charges with these Blood Knights, and despite the fact that they got really, really decimated in the beginning, they're still riding around, pressuring my rear flank and, you know, forcing my crossbowmen back. But as soon as I'm able to get some leadership to help out, these guys are still confident. So what I do is I just pull them back, have them reform while these guys are tied up here. And it looks like my opponent did attempt to use a Gaze of Nagash on my Lord, but it got caught up, I think, on some of these Blood Knights here. So that was unfortunate, but the Knights of the Blazing Sun are really, really holding their own in this battle, guys. So I was very, very happy about that. Regardless, the power bar is still relatively close, guys. This battle is not over by any means, and Vlad von Carstein is still in perfect health, despite the fact that he's been rear charged by these Knights of the Blazing Sun. I believe he did use a Master of Beguilement on that initial charge, and that was the reason why that did not go so well. My opponent has won the engagement over here. His Graveguard were able to beat back most of my infantry and this Bright Wizard, so I did have to fall back and reform my ranks. But I wasn't terribly concerned because I had this large group of the Knights of the Blazing Sun who are just coming in here and just are running shop on these guys. So they're getting good charges and, you know, just doing pretty substantial damage to most of these Vampire Counts units, and especially when that Bright Wizard is just continuing to buff them. That's what's really nice about Lore of Fire, guys. The various buffs are very cheap. I believe the Cascading Fire Cloak is 5 or 6, and the Flaming Sword of Ruin is just under 10, which is very cost effective. Over here, I do have a Warrior Priest doing battle with some Vampire Counts units. I believe there was some Blood Knights left over there and a little bit of a delayed bombardment, but it still does look very cool, and he will get style points for that. Over here, Vlad has a few zombies it looks like he summoned just to kind of prolong his battle and provide him a buffer, which is very well played on my opponent's part because, again, Vlad was starting to get surrounded by these armor-piercing greatswords, and also that protects him from the cavalry charge. You can see it puts a nice buffer there, so these cav aren't going to hit him directly, and you know, the zombies took the brunt of it. Regardless, that buffer is now gone for my opponent, unfortunately, and most of these units will have him surrounded. So over here, this Empire Captain is doing a pretty good job just cleaning up the Sternsmen. And, you know, the Sternsmen eventually just fell victim to that cycle charging because when you lose the cavalry battle, and it's a very tough situation with the Vampire Counts. Usually, you know, you have to invest very heavily in Blood Knights, you know, as well as the Dire Pack. And I think if he had like one more group of cavalry, it would have been a closer fight. And also that charge getting broken was a really, really detrimental factor to that outcome. But when you lose that, you know, if you don't have like some skeleton spearmen or other troops to protect against the cycle charging, you can really, really get run over. So at that point, the battle's pretty much over, just with the exception of Vlad, so I'll go ahead and fast forward that. So mainly this game, guys, I just wanted to showcase the strength of the Knights of the Blazing Sun when in conjunction with the Bright Wizard. The Kindle Flame with them is very, very strong. It's basically just, what, a 12 or 13% buff on their damage in general. And against the Vampire Counts, and a lot of their units actually do have weaknesses to fire. I forget off the top of the head if the Blood Knights do, so maybe one of you guys in the comment section below can let me know. But regardless, I feel like it's a very, very, very strong unit. And I know the Demogryph Knights are the popular pick, but they come in such a small unit density, and, you know, a single Master of Beguilement from Vlad can really turn the tide. Like, if I brought Demogryph Knights, I wouldn't have been able to bring, you know, I may have been able to bring a second group of cav, like Empire Knights or something, but regardless, I feel like this is a more cost-effective build. But there's still, you know, a lot of testing to be done, but just, you know, my limited experience. So hope you guys enjoyed that battle. It was a lot of fun for me, and I'll have more content coming for you guys soon. Have an excellent night, and take care.